Omo Atiku Abubakar don't call out tribunal judges. Say me they can't explain what Tinubu name they do for the CTC so they give them. And apart from that one, the lawyers of Atiku and lawyers of Tinubu don't seriously they get some kind of issue now on top of the matter. Listen to the details. Just hear the full gist. Watch from beginning to the end. You go understand what they go on. As I go on and talk like this, these people just they make some unnecessary mistakes, and those mistakes now they expose both waiting make sense and waiting don't make sense. Here waiting they cause correct, they cause serious issue now. While they full on and talk like this. What if you don't make sure for me? They're very important. Tribunal. Tinubu's lawyers Atiku fight over president's team's imprint on certified copies. Ahead of the battle between President Bola Tinubu, former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, and Mr. Peterobi at the Supreme Court over the February 25th presidential election, the president's legal team yesterday denied the allegation that certified copies of the judgment of the presidential election petition court, which were made available to all the parties by the registry of the court on Friday, had their imprint on them. But Atiku and his legal team vigorously demanded explanation on the imprint, directing their demand to the presidential election petition court. Now, here is the demand from Atiku to the tribunal judges, and it's very, very stern about it. Presidential election petition tribunal. Atiku demands explanation over Tinubu's legal team's imprint on judgment. The presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party (PDP) in the February 25th presidential election, Atiku Abubakar, and members of his team have queried the presence of the watermark of the Tinubu legal team on certified true copies of the judgment of the presidential election petition court, currently trending on social media. In fact, the PDP candidate team is demanding explanation from the court over the unconventional developments. Spokesperson for the Atiku's team, Frank Shuaibu, made the demand in a statement in Abuja on Saturday. He noted that it was curious that after causing needless delay in availing the PDP presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar and his legal team certified true copies of its judgment, the court should explain what happened to Nigerians. He said, "It is not our intention to stir up controversy on the matter, but it is very important that the presidential election petition court should tell Nigerians why they chose to affix the header of the respondents on the CTC copy of their judgment, whereas the copies that went to the petitioners did not have the same. Was that because the Tinubu legal team is deemed to be accorded special privileges? The court must explain. It is very clear that there are many questions begging for answers, including why the presidential election petition court came to the decision to avail the respondents, especially the Tinubu legal team, to have a first receipt of the CTC of the judgment before the plaintiffs. The curiosity is more confounding based on the fact that the lead counsel to Atiku and the PDP had pleaded in the open court to have express receipt of the judgment, to which Justice Haruna Samani agreed and promised to make the documents available the following day, which was Thursday. Nigerians want to know why the presidential election petition court confers special privileges to the Tinubu legal team by making them have a first custody of the copies of the presidential election petition court judgments, even though it was more urgent for petitioners who needed the document in order to curse an appeal to the Supreme Court within 14 days, including weekends. In the case of delivering its judgment, the presidential election petition court had spoken of the petition it was ruling upon in a vexatious and denigrating language, as if it was a crime to bring a case of electoral banditry before the courts. However, unfolding development after the court's ruling elicits suspicions about whether or not the Tinubu legal team provided clerical services to the presidential election petition court. Otherwise, how and when did the Tinubu presidential legal team creep into a document that was supposed to be the official document of the Court of Appeal of Nigeria? He further said, "We need to restate that the Tinubu presidential legal team on the top left-hand corner of the all 798 pages is neither a monochrome nor a metadata. It is actually a header, meaning that except for a valid explanation, the Tinubu presidential legal team is the originator of the documents. For the purpose of clarity, a header is text that is placed at the top of a page, while a footer is placed at the bottom of a page. Typically, these areas are used for inserting information such as the name of the document, the chapter heading, page numbers, creation dates, and the like. On the other hand, watermark is a faint design made in some paper during manufacture that is visible when held against the light and typically identifies the maker of the document. The PEPC must, on its honor, if indeed it still has any, clarify why the court chose to put the header of the Tinubu legal team on a CTC copy of its judgment document, while the only emblem that should have been on the document is the stamp of the Court of Appeal of Nigeria. Again, the PEPC must explain why it came to the discretionary decision of having the respondents have a custody of the judgment earlier in the day on Friday, while only making same available to the petitioners later in the day, and only after the lead counsel to Atiku and PDP had written a second letter. The first was on Thursday, the court demanding for copies of the judgment. Moreover, we have it on good authority that when the PEPC was informed that the CTC copies of the judgment given to the respondent was already circulating in the public domain with the header of Tinubu presidential legal team on it, a further delay was necessitated by the need for it to undertake a laundry of the documents by removing the Tinubu presidential legal team, the header, before handing over same to the lawyers of Atiku. Whereas the legal team of the PDP and Atiku have statutory 14 days to prepare its appeal to the Supreme Court. The Presidential Election Petition Court had erased 2 days out of the 14 days. No thanks to the Presidential Election Petition Court, whose chairman, Justice Samani, had promised to make available the CTC copy of the judgment to Atiku a day after its judgment was rendered, which ought to have been on Thursday. Nigerians and the world are earnestly waiting for answers to these posers as the legal challenge shifts to the Supreme Court. Otherwise, it will validate suspicions that there were external factors involved in the formulation of the judgment and bring the entire judiciary of Nigeria into disrepute. Make no mistake about it, this legal challenge to the electoral banditry of February 25th, which has now shifted to the apex court, is not about Atiku. It is indeed our last-ditch effort to salvage our country and deepen our democracy against the background of the decimation of nearly all the institutions of state, including the Independent National Electoral Commission, which dragged us into this quagmire. Our intent is to ensure that the judiciary, the last hope of the common man, does not go to the dogs.
So guys, in addition, majority of Nigerians believe that the header is actually an evidence that someone from the APC wrote the judgment in favor of Tinubu. Some are saying that it's just a watermark. How can you call a header watermark? A header is always placed at the top of the page, any page, and watermark is a faded image that appears behind the text in a document. So, the Pept judgment that had Tinubu presidential legal team on the document is not a watermark. It's obvious that the judgment was not written by the corrupt judges. Sometimes, things like this happen so that Nigerians could see the rot in the judicial system. They have tried to cover it up by saying that it's a watermark, but it's not a watermark. Them think say all Nigerians are gullible. All Nigerians are not gullible. How can the judiciary allow someone to write a judgment for them? One thing I understand is that Tinubu cannot buy legitimacy with gold. It's a shame that our judicial system is being mocked by African countries. Other African countries, they are not speaking about it. And even international bodies also, they are also talking about it. They are aware of the bola activity and the judgment that was given by the Court of Appeal. Now, during the judgment day on Wednesday, if you guys listen to the judges, we all heard them. We all heard the voices of those corrupt judges. Despite we didn't see their faces, they sounded more like paid lawyers defending Bola Tinubu in an open court. You could feel the emotions and bias in their judgment as they read, attacking Peterobi and Atiku's petitions, including their supporters. The judges were scared and filled with guilt in their voices as they read those already prepared judgments in the court. They made a total mockery of the law, they made a mess with our constitution, and then finally, guys, they relegated our electoral laws and acts into the dustbin of history. So guys, as it stands now in Nigeria, contesting elections and winning elections will be like, whoa, people go peme, houses go burn, agberos everywhere, and so on like that, unless the right thing is done now. And the only chance and the last hope we have is the Supreme Court. If the Supreme Court says that 25% in FCT is not needed, let them throw the constitution into River Niger. If they say that Tinubu did not forfeit 460,000 US dollar, then let them throw the constitution into the river, because all of this made us to understand that the constitution cannot declare someone winner, someone who was convicted, and someone who had double nomination. Alright, so guys, this is where I'm going to end the gist. Please let me know what you think about this at the comment section. Don't forget to like this video and keep following Gist Estate for more.